time to nerd fight.
Step into the ring, it's time to brawl. Nerd fights, baby, we're geeking for all. Marvel, DC, Trek, and more. Pop culture battles, settle the score. Nerd fights, let's get loud. Nerd fights, yeah, for the geeky crowd. Nerd fights, hey, it's time to throw down. Bring your fandom, it's the hottest showdown. Who's got the takes? Who's got the heat? Mr. Know-It-All and Salty can't be beat.
We're talking Lower Deck Season 5, Episode 6, our last word on OTOY's de-aging tech.
Nerd fight!
That means only one thing. It's time to fight.
Beat drops out with the final shot.
Nerd Fights.
Let's fight!
That intro, it's like it doesn't work for you, man.
That's awesome. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Nerd Fights. I am Mr. Know-It-All, of course. Joining us, as always, is Salty Trekker. He's the captain of this starship. And we're hoping that we're going to be able to shed some light and fun and talk about Lower Decks. And the way the show works, we're going to talk about a couple topics, and then ultimately it's Saturday, which means it's open mic. So we're hopefully looking to find out what you guys want to talk about, as well as whether it's making fun of me, making fun of Salty, or just having fun in general. We'll talk to you guys.
You sound a little echoey.
Echoey?
Yeah, like you're on a cheap mic or something.
Oh my god, I am on a cheap mic. Not a cheap mic, it's way over there. I forgot to plug in my other mic.
That would make it sense.
No, so you're going for the mic, this is the onboard mic.
So there we go. End of the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Where's the outro music? Well, I guess, yeah, I'm just going to be stuck here.
Literally, you're stuck right there. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. All right.
As Mr. Know-It-All plugs in his microphone.
For real.
Oh, by the way, Penny, thank you for changing it from Mr. KIA to Mr. K-IT-A.
It's true.
But what I was going to say is, you know how intimidating you are?
What's that? I'm intimidating?
Well, because you were doing your little pose.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm the least intimidating thug ever.
Yeah, so you're so intimidating that if you showed up at a KKK meeting, they would say, "Oh, come on in."
That's awesome. Okay, that's a good call. No, sir, I get it totally. Oh, of course you're here, aren't you, you needy pup? He's gonna be like, "What's going on with me?" You, bud. Sorry.
And Ben, that's not true. He says we don't have any outro music. We have the most fantastic outro music ever produced for any show in the history of shows.
Ever. Award-winning.
The problem is that for some reason we keep having technical problems and one of us gets cut off mid-sentence.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. It's weird.
Yeah.
So you guys always miss it. I apologize.
Yeah. One of these days you'll get to hear it.
Someday.
It's so good.
It's like that song by Tenacious D. This is the greatest song. It's a song about the greatest song that's ever made.
Well, I mean, our outro music is so good; it will literally bring a tear to your eye.
Oh, I can totally see that.
Yeah, it's I mean, because it's soulful and yet it's so funny.
Soulful.
Soulful.
Give me a second, because unfortunately, of course, as always happens, I'm the only person in the house today. So, and this guy needs to be walked real quick. So, please talk amongst yourself.
So while the dog is pooping, so the outro music is soulful. It has moments of comedy that'll just make you laugh. It's just a most insanely good song I think ever produced. But we don't have that for you right now. Hopefully at the end of the show today, if we don't have any more technical problems. So Stanley was first in the chat, says yo yo yo, because we're just on this whole thug vibe today. Bradley says, what's up? Miss Moneypenny is here. Trustin, good to see you, buddy. Aravik is here as well. And Ben One Eye commenting on the outro music or lack thereof. So we're going to talk about a few things when Mr. Know-It-All gets back. If you haven't seen it, you might want to take this opportunity real quick to watch the Alien Earth trailer, because we are going to talk about that in just a minute. And so Alien Earth, it's a real thing. It's an Alien sequel, but it's a series. And so we're going to talk about that. Obviously, we're going to talk about Lower Decks, and I think on the slate we're also going to talk a little bit more about the Unification short starring James Tiberius Kirk. So Eric says, let's hear the TOS remix while we wait. Nope. So this isn't the Wicked review. Sorry, Stan. No, maybe we'll do the Wicked review as a Thanksgiving special. Actually, the wife and I are going to go see Wicked on Wednesday. We haven't seen it yet. I did see Gladiator 2 yesterday. And I was trying to tell Mr. Know-It-All about it before we started. But Gladiator 2, before seeing the movie, my first thought was, this feels like...
Go on, keep going. I've been listening.
This feels like a completely unnecessary sequel. And after watching the film, I figured, yes, it was absolutely an unnecessary sequel. Was it a bad movie? Absolutely not. It was well made. It was, for the most part, well acted, although I think the actor that played Lucius was miscast. Pedro Pascal absolutely owned his role for what little bit he got.
What's funny is the actor who played Lucius in the original movie is alive. Like he's a working actor. I don't know.
I haven't seen him. Does he look okay for the part?
He looks fine. He looks like himself older. I mean, I'm sure he could not have.
Yeah, then I don't know why they didn't just bring him in.
Because he wasn't the flair of the week, probably.
Yeah. But now the emperor, because the thing that I don't understand, now I'm not a historian. Let me qualify that. I'm not an expert on Rome or anything.
Oh, no, for sure. Neither one of us are. I mean, that's.
But my limited understanding of the Roman imperial system would be that if we had a circumstance like what happened in Gladiator, wouldn't his nephew then become emperor?
That sounds correct.
Yeah, because Lucius was the only other.
Yeah, but if the regents can't hold the seat while you're becoming of age, then they would.
Look how strong his mother was. I don't. I'm just saying, based on the characters we saw in the movie, I'm not talking about real life here. I'm talking about in the movie universe. It seems like Lucius should be emperor if you're doing a sequel.
Right.
But Lucius is an outcast. He's literally like banished from Rome at the beginning of the movie. And you're like, but why? He's literally an heir to the throne. Denzel was good as well. I will say that.
I've heard from several people that he was good, but underused.
Well, I would say because do you mind some spoilers here?
No, go for it.
Okay, so Denzel is the primary villain.
Really? You're a liar.
No, I'm absolutely serious.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
And because he's got this whole plot, his whole thing is to become the new emperor.
What?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I love this idea so much.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, he basically, the whole thing is decided by Denzel and Lucius having a sword fight in between two armies that are about to clash.
Wow.
And so, which is a very dramatic setting, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Because you have Lucius, the armies loyal to Lucius. There's about 5,000 of them, and they're marching on the city of Rome. And so then
wow.
And so at the same time,
which is what they were worried that Maximus was going to do in the first movie.
And that's what's about to happen. So meanwhile, the Denzel had just assassinated the emperor to become emperor himself somehow.
Got it.
And so then he rides out with the Roman garrison that's stationed in Rome, which is about 6,000 men. So
that's crazy.
So 5,000 on 6,000. And the two armies are lining up, getting ready to fight. And even though Denzel has the upper hand with 1,000 additional men, instead of just sending the army in to slaughter everybody, Denzel just rides out and Lucius rides out, and the two of them have a sword fight, and Denzel's killed.
What?
Yeah. And of course he was killed. Denzel is like 70 years old and he's fighting a guy in his 20s. I mean, it was worse than the Tyson fight.
I was going to say it just as bad as the Tyson fight. That's awesome.
Yeah, because Denzel is also scrawny compared to this guy, so at least Mike Tyson was a big guy.
No, for sure. Oh my God, Creep! This comment did not age well. Underused with the main character in the trailer. You know your movie sucks when a side character is used to sell a movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, I guess you spoke too soon.
Yeah. He is the main villain, but the thing is that the trailer also makes it out that Pedro Pascal is like the main hero, but he is not. But
several people I've heard said that he should have got his own.
Right, well, throw the spoiler warning up again.
Hold on, spoiler warning. You said okay, fine. Here we go. Spoiler warning. Go for it.
Pedro Pascal's character is killed halfway through the film.
No, that's so cheap. I feel so lied to. That's so rough.
His death was lame, and that's the worst thing about it. Because the setup, again, kind of like with the two Roman armies, the setup was great. Because we find out as the story is unfolding, the Pedro Pascal is actually Lucius's unknown stepfather, because he is married to Lucius's mother, but Lucius didn't, so it's like kind of this weird family dynamic, but Lucius has a grudge against him because he sacked the city where Lucius was living, and Pedro himself killed his wife with an arrow.
Wow.
And so there's this huge, and so what happens is Lucius is now a gladiator because reasons. And
because reasons in the plot. Got it.
Right. And Pedro has found out that he's trying to take over Rome, or at least to dethrone the emperors who are totally corrupt. And so they throw Pedro into the arena against like 5 or 6 Praetorian guards, right? And so it's like, yeah, we're going to just kill you. But then Pedro, like in 10 seconds, like does a Emperor Palpatine and just slaughters him.
That's awesome.
And it was great. It was a great moment. And so then he's like, okay, let's see how you do with this. And they throw Lucius out there to fight him. So now you have Pedro, the stepfather versus his stepson in the gladiatorial arena. Yeah. Great setup. Right, so you're like, what's going to happen? Is one of them going to actually kill the other, and then, or are they going to, what's going to, and so they both lay down their arms. Eventually, they fight for a little bit because Lucius really hates Pedro, but then Pedro kind of convinces him that he was truly sorry about what happened, kind of thing, while they're fighting.
I love that it's Lucius against Pedro.
Yeah, it's Atticus, I believe, is his character's name, but he's Pedro. He's freaking. I love Pedro now. He was really good. But Lucius versus Atticus, and they're fighting and fighting and fighting. And then finally, Atticus just says no. And he throws his sword down Luke Skywalker style. And he's like, if you're going to kill me, but I am not going to fight you.
That's good for him, man.
And so then the Emperor does his traditional thumbs down to kill him. And so then Lucius walks up, and then he drops his sword. And so the two of them are like, hey, we're gonna reconcile, father and son kind of thing. And so then my thought is like, ooh, so now they're both gladiators, and how are they going to work together to take out the emperors? And no, instead they happen to have the entire arena lined with archers, and they all just shoot Pedro dead.
That's so lame.
Exactly. It was just like, what? Huh?
Oh,
it just, yeah. So it was just stupid. In fact, the funny thing is there are 3 really lame deaths by arrow in the
story. Okay, go ahead. Which ones?
Well, there's Lucius. Huh?
Spoiler alert is still up. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the first one is Lucius's wife is killed by an arrow by Pedro. And the stupid thing, it was very contrived because she is, why is she even, like, she's the only woman fighting in this battle. And the thing is, the arrow goes right through a chest plate like it was nothing, because that's what arrows do.
You ever heard of those armor piercing arrows?
Yeah. I guess that's what it was. So the second one is, of course, Atticus, Pedro Pascal's character, just being killed after one of the most dramatic gladiator matches in the movie. And then the third one was that okay.
But I mean, what's the point? Are we supposed to hate him? Are we supposed to hate them more for that?
Well, that's the problem. Is that
Like, how do you hate someone more than you already hate them?
right? I think they were trying to cram too much. I don't know what's going on in the mind of Ridley Scott, but it is not sanity. He was trying
He's
to.
apparently planning a third one.
I don't know with what. I mean, at the end of this one, Lucius is taking over Rome, and everybody's happy, and the world is good. So there's nowhere to go. Now, the interesting thing is that this was called Gladiator 2, simply no like Gladiator Rise of the Sith or something. It was just Gladiator and then the Roman number 2 in the middle of the word Gladiator.
There you go.
And 2 and I think this is interesting, this is an ongoing theme of the movie, the number 2. This is the second generation. There are 2 twin Roman emperors on the throne in this movie. There are 2 heroes, Atticus and Lucius. There's
Basically, Ridley Scott said we're going to double down.
we're going to double down on everything.
Yeah.
There are not one but 2 scenes with the great ore boats in battle.
Which, by the way, I hear conflicting things.
Yeah.
Was there or was there not? Did that not happen historically?
What boats in the arena?
Yeah.
My understanding is if you look at the Roman Colosseum today, there are aqueducts for flooding the arena. Now, the stupid thing was, did they have man-eating sharks in the water? Probably not. And by the way, the man-eating sharks, this was the worst part of the entire movie. The man-eating sharks in the water in that battle looked like they were right out of Sharknado.
That's hilarious.
So that was like the cheapest part of the movie, and it was completely unnecessary. The big boat battle in the arena I actually really liked. In fact, and the boat battle at the beginning of the movie, which was the invasion of the city where Lucius was.
So he has to play dude killing dude's wife?
Huh?
Does he have to play Pedro Pascal or someone has to play him?
No, it was Pedro. What do you mean? Does someone have to play him? No,
remember, because if they're doing that moment from history.
No, they're not doing a moment from history they are doing a moment from history, but a completely different one. Okay. I'm saying there are 2 boat battles. One at the beginning of the movie where they sack the city, and the other one in the arena.
Okay. I wasn't sure if the arena was supposed to be emulating that battle.
No. Okay. The arena was.
That would have been so tragically ironic. I'm like, oh, bro.
Yeah. But yeah,
I feel like this movie wasn't clever enough for something like that, though.
It wasn't, and unfortunately,
that level of nuance was not there. Apparently,
as a standalone movie, it really wasn't bad. But as a Gladiator sequel, here's the biggest.
Mino Other says none of both Gladiator movies are accurate. Gladiator 1 was very inaccurate, and that's.
But I don't care about that. I
totally agree. By the way, I understand that. That isn't my point. My point is just like there's inaccurate. And then there's like anachronistic, where you sit here and you go, I don't know, like if this is something we just made up,
right? Well,
for fiction's sake, or was there an actual event like this? That's awesome. That's
right. Like the Romans have man-eating sharks and weird mutant monkeys to attack. You've seen the trailer.
That's what I heard the CGI about. I heard the monkeys.
The monkeys were horrible looking, but did the Romans use those in the gladiatorial games? No. Did the Romans use animals in the gladiatorial games? Yes. But they
didn't figure out that they could have used dinosaurs. That would have just been.
Yeah, that would have been great if they had velociraptors come out or something. But everybody knows Christians were fed to lions. That's a real thing. So that was but did you have weird space monkeys and Sharknado sharks? No, you did not. And so I'm not looking for a history lesson with these movies. I'm looking for entertainment. But the big problem is, and this I think is the biggest mistake of the film, is they start out Gladiator 2, right?
Right.
And if you were to watch just the opening credits of this movie, like forget about if you knew nothing about the Gladiator movies, and I just showed you the opening credits to Gladiator 2, you would think that the movie stars Russell Crowe.
Really?
Yes, and Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, bro.
because the
Did they
all
member berry that hard?
oh, not only that, but every 5 minutes in the movie, somebody's got to mention Maximus. I think that's actually in the
I always
script.
want to see if CinemaSins or somebody like that does
They need to do a
a
Maximus
counter,
count. Yeah,
just
they
a
do.
counter of all the time. Maximus Bing, Maximus Bing, Maximus Bing.
You
Like,
could CinemaSins could absolutely do a Maximus counter for this movie
that's
because
awesome.
oh my gosh, it comes up all the time. I knew Maximus. I fought with Maximus. I saw Maximus.
I blew Maximus. Like,
Yeah,
whoa, easy,
yeah,
easy.
yeah, yeah. Here's Maximus's armor. Hey, Lucius,
That's hilarious. I saw that in the trailer, and I'm like, where would they? Did they just someone
somehow
just
the
put it up?
gladiators have a shrine underneath the Colosseum.
Right? I was like, is that just, okay? That's weird.
Yeah, it made no and the problem is they kept reminding me of what an awesome movie Gladiator was. And I kept
So, like,
saying,
stop reminding me of a better movie.
yeah,
It's not helping you.
stop telling me about Maximus because I'm just gonna go home and watch Gladiator. You know?
By the way, I do feel bad. I probably should have just put this movie on the list because we're really opining this movie pretty hardcore. So much so that it wasn't originally what we were intended to be talking about, but I'm kind of down.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so if you guys have thoughts about the new Gladiator movie or the old Gladiator movie, by all means, please put them in the comments. Me know others absolutely making some fire points today. The movie's 300 to point happened, just not in the weird way. The same with Gladiator, just a movie for entertainment using some historical
Right.
events.
It's
No,
true that
I
200 Spartans stood
absolutely,
against the Persian army. It's not
absolutely,
true that they all looked like underwear models and were
and had a 7-foot king who with magical powers. I got it.
yeah.
I got it.
But
However, I do believe the bottomless pit in Sparta existed, and they kicked people in it, shouting, "This is Sparta."
they probably did do that. Yeah. I just didn't understand
Because if that didn't happen, well, what is history class anymore?
right. But what I don't understand about Gladiator 2 is that why did they cross that line with some of the stuff with the weird, space monkeys and man-eating sharks and stuff? Why did they cross over into Fantasyland when they didn't do that in the first film? The first film was much more grounded. It felt like, okay, this may not be history, but it could have been. And so and there are certain things in the first movie that are based on historical events.
That's true.
But but this one, it's like, okay, so now there's twin Roman emperors, and by the way, one of them has syphilis to the point where he's mad. And because why did they do that? I don't know. Why not? That there was no point to it. There was just
Well, unless he's Nero or Caligula, there's no reason for him to be that in rough. I mean,
right.
there's only a few really rough characters in the history that were actually rough that bad.
And they should have made it Nero or Caligula. That
Agreed. Like that, I'm saying that's you may as well just like guys. Like, well, we wanted to be historically. Shut up.
No, you didn't, because there were never. I don't think there was ever a time where there were two emperors.
No, that I don't think so either. I think there was a time where they had two like governors or something, like where they had two people, like almost like Jerusalem did years ago. I think Rome had originally been split into two parts or places or whatever.
Right, but these were two twin emperors, both sitting on the throne at the same time.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, and so which didn't make any sense.
So clearly they are concerned with historical accuracy.
Right. But if you got nothing better to do,
I get it. I totally get it. Right.
If you have an AMC subscription or something,
it's worth it.
Yeah, I would. I didn't regret seeing it, but I certainly am not going to put that up in my list of favorite movies where Gladiator is. Because Gladiator is a great movie. This is a decent movie. It's not a great movie by any stretch. I would give this one probably between a 6 and a 7 out of 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, which keep in mind for me, a 5 out of 10 is between watching this movie and watching paint dry. It's a toss up. So giving this a 6 is not high praise.
Giving this a 6.
Yeah.
Not so much. Not with the high praise.
Yeah. It just means that, hey, did I hate watching it? No. But would I go out of my way to watch it? No.
Probably not either. Yeah, not so much.
Like if I have nothing to do and I'm flipping the channels and it happens to be on, okay, I might not turn away, but I'm not going to be like, ooh, I want to watch Gladiator 2.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I get it. I totally get it. That's fair. That's like I have already said several times, I want to watch Beetlejuice. because we have it, and
Yeah, it was so fun.
right. So, but yeah, this is not. I get this is not one of those.
Yeah, this is definitely not one of those kind of movies. Yeah.
Because I've went through back in the day, because remember there was a world before streaming where it was like TNT, TBN, USA,
Right.
days where you'd watch Gladiator on all weekend long, and it was during some and you'd get the whole, and I'd watch it, and I'd sit there and watch it every time I come in the room,
Yep.
like because it was a good, it knew its job well. This movie seems like it wanted to make you remember that better movie all too much.
Right. And the thing is, if you wanted to make this about Maximus's legacy, you shouldn't have killed his son in the first movie and now make up that Lucius is his son. And
Agreed.
so, that was just lame. Because I'm sorry, Maximus's son died.
Agreed.
You know.
Mino either says supposedly the only twin leaders I know of are the French king giving birth to twins. The oldest twin put his twin in a metal mask. Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, as far as I know, that nothing like that ever happened. And these guys, like I said, the way that they portrayed them, just saying it was Nero or Caligula would have been enough. You didn't need to have two of them.
Fair enough. That's fair.
Yeah. And you can still have Denzel plotting against them and all that. And like I said, Denzel's character was actually interesting. At first, it's like, oh, so they're just bringing in another big name black actor to put the guy into the gladiatorial games, because that's where it starts out. Is that Denzel is the guy that's going to put Lucius into the arena, but the motivations are different,
right?
And the And in this one, because he basically, like in the trailer, they even say, well, what would make you happy? And he said, the general's head. He's talking about Pedro Pascal.
Right.
And so what they don't show you in the trailer is that Denzel then promises him that if you work for me, I will get you that.
Oh, wow.
And so, and of course, eventually he does, because he gets Pedro into the arena with him. And so, and in fact, he even points it out later. He goes, hey, I gave you what you wanted, so be careful what you ask for.
Right on.
All right. So enough about that. So the xenomorphs are back.
Yay, xenomorphs.
Now the Romans, I hear, had xenomorphs that they would throw out into the arena to fight the
That's how they killed the Christians, actually.
Yes.
Xenomorph facehugger detections. Yeah, that's how they do it.
It's true, people. It's absolutely true. The Romans had xenomorph. That's why the Roman Colosseum is in such bad shape today, because xenomorph blood just decayed.
Well, if you saw Alien versus Predator, you understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
The first one.
Oh, yeah.
It can get rough.
A lot of people realize that the Great Pyramids of Egypt are actually just predator towers.
That's right. That's it. That's what they're made for.
And then the Romans saw them and they were like, hey, can we have some xenomorphs? And the predators were like, yeah, sure, you can have a couple. And they threw them in the Colosseum.
Because we were like this close.
Alien versus Predator 3, Gladiator 3.
Alien versus, that's right. Oh my! But no, Alien versus Predator with a Roman numeral 3.
Yes.
Oh, see, that'd be awesome. And it's literal the same pose dude's in, but it's a predator. One of those.
You see an alien, a predator, and Maximus. By the way, Maximus is not in the film. This will be his grandson.
No, totally.
Oh, goodness. So for those...
Hold on. Tristan had a great point real quick. Last thought of this other thing before we continue. Gladiator came out in 2000. Nothing makes a good sequel like waiting a quarter of a century.
The funny thing is, sometimes the long wait can make for a good movie, like Beetlejuice.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Ghostbusters, the
Afterlife.
Afterlife. Thank you. So you can make good sequels decades after the original.
Yeah.
But you got to put some love into them. And this one felt like Ridley Scott was just doing his job. It didn't feel like there was love.
Ridley Scott was just doing his job. Brother, I know your job is to make movies, but can we not just do our job? Can we?
Yeah. And then, this is one of those movies that makes me feel kind of like, certain other great, in quotation marks, directors. Ridley Scott is just kind of overrated. Don't get me wrong, he's a good movie maker, but not everything he makes is gold.
Where's Darren? Don't make me have to reach out to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Creep said explain Dumb and Dumber then.
Well, I haven't seen any of the Dumb and Dumber franchise, so which
I
I
don't know
hate.
that you're missing much.
I hate that that's actually a coherent sentence.
Explain Dumb and Dumber that for real. All right. Well, listen, I think it's time we finally get started to talk about a little show called Lower Decks.
We didn't finish talking about Alien.
Come on, man, really?
Well, we barely. I just want to say. So, for those of you that don't know, it's called Alien Earth, and it looks like the xenomorphs are finally on Earth, which is something I've wanted since Aliens.
It's true.
Because remember when Alien was in space, no one can hear you scream, and then when Aliens came out, they said this time it's war, and I was expecting the xenomorphs to be on Earth and a full-out war. But that's not what we got. What we got was one squad of Marines on a deserted base. And don't get me wrong, Aliens was great. I'm not saying it wasn't. Yes, I think James Cameron is overrated, but I'm not saying Aliens was a bad movie. I just think that Titanic and the Avatar films are not that great. So then with Alien 3, it sounded like, oh, this time they're going to Earth. Nope. They teased it by crashing on Earth at the end of the movie, but everybody was, the aliens were all dead. And so this time, though, it is straight up. This is called Alien Earth. And I do like the trailer, with their tagline, it says, Earth is expecting. What? You didn't like it?
My thing is, it doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't tell me anything, nor do I know anything. It doesn't give us any information. I know it's supposed to be a teaser, but it's like, I don't know enough, and it feels so lore baity at the moment that I don't want to make any harsh judgments. So I'm just like, hey, I saw it. What did I tell you when we first talked about it before the show? We started the show. I saw at least it's a real alien face. It's not like they're trying to do some weird. Maybe it's an alien. Maybe it's an origin story. Like they're not trying to do something weird that doesn't feel like alien.
Right. It feels like an alien.
I'm happy with that. I'm also like suspiciously because where does all this fit in the lore? Are we redoing I'm okay with redoing the lore. I just want to know. And just right now, it looks amazing. It looks like it lives in the same universe as potentially what we saw in that Alien Romulus movie.
Right.
I mean, they're taking similar design cues in terms of how things look, and I'm down if that's the case.
That's what I'm hoping, is that this is like a direct for Romulus.
Which I think would be cool. I think it would be very cool if you did that, especially because Romulus found a really nice way between the lines of the existing stuff.
Right.
And so I'm okay, especially if they're going to continue answering this, because it's almost like they're now showing us everything that happened, and we're learning the full scope that Weyland Yutani knew about everything. We always knew when you found out, oh, that's the real reason they sent dude out there. That's the real mission you're on. Like they always felt like those were the way, but like seeing it from their side is what I feel like we're kind of getting.
Which was kind of cool, because you can kind of understand why if we found out that like in some weird region of Antarctica there was a creature like the xenomorph,
right?
That people would be trying to capture one in order to study it and figure out how to unlock its potential.
Absolutely.
So they bring it to Washington D.C. and the next thing you know, the entire country is overrun with aliens. You want aliens? This is how you get aliens. But this, I think that. But when we're talking about the marketing for a second, I think the most brilliant marketing that they did in the entire Alien franchise was the first film. All they showed you was a freaking egg with a crack in it. And then they said, in space, no one can hear you scream. And you were like, what is in that egg?
We got to remember, too, we were also of an age where we were being programmed. Things like critters, gremlins, those kind of things, like these like little what is going to come out of
all that though?
But I mean, what is going to come out from all of this thing? And all of a sudden, it's like that, but like more mature, more earnest, more like he fed what our culture was already being fed, which was, oh, look at this small, intimidating thing. And now, boom, the story that's even bigger than you imagined. And I was like, wow, it's an amazing turn. It really is, especially because culturally speaking, if you line them up, these kinds of movies were your critters, under the creatures under the stairs and all that nonsense. Those kind of monster movies. That's what was considered monster movies at the time.
Right. Although I think the scariest monster movie has got to be Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
That thing is terrifying.
Willy Wonka is a child serial killer. You can't convince me otherwise. Those other kids are dead, and he didn't care. And in fact, if you look at Gene Wilder, played it so well as a
Oh, he did.
you know, oh, stop! Wait, don't. And he's like, oh wow, he's disturbed.
Yeah, no, he's disturbed all day. Right on.
All right, so now we can go to Lower Decks. I'm sorry.
All right, fine. Lower Decks. It is. We are going to be watching not watching, but talking through this thing. There is no. I purposely didn't have the audio on, but I want to be able to kind of scrub through some of this like we used to. This was probably one of the better. This is probably one of the better episodes of the season, I think.
Well, it's funny. This is our second bottle show in a row,
Which I find hilarious that we even call them that, but I know where it comes from.
yeah. But yeah, you know what the term means, and because we're not dealing with the overarching plot at all. We're really not, they're not covering any new ground with
No.
it. But the funny thing is, the two bottle shows that they've shown have been my two favorite episodes this season.
Agreed. Yeah. I'm with you on that one.
That being said, my favorite episode of Star Trek of all time is a bottle show, Balance of Terror.
Which I, again, love. And I love that. Yeah, I love that episode so much.
And so, just because it's a bottle show is not a negative thing to say, just to be clear. But this is such a Picard mission. Where, we have these two warring factions and we need to help them out. But then they take it to the stupid level with, one is a group of creatures that are cubes and the other is a group of creatures that are...
Tell me that didn't feel stupid. That wasn't Michael McMahon showing his Rick and Morty roots.
Yeah, not only that, but just, it's the Butter Battle book.
Yes.
It's all the, it's funny. It really is. But it's also they keep it within the
hold on, I love it. Stanley goes, "This is good, but food critics, that's bad." Okay, got it. Yes, Stan, that's the line. That's the line in the sand we're drawing. Okay, thank you for catching that so much. I love him. Oh my God! Real quick, going back to what you were talking about before. Have you heard this? I've heard this before. 2013's movie Snowpiercer is a sequel to Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The guy implied as an adult Charlie said the Oompa Loompas were extinct, so they used small kids. Wow.
I know somebody put out a video about how Snowpiercer was a sequel.
Yeah, I've seen that one too back in the day.
I haven't watched it yet, so I need to check it out because that's.
Stanley, it was a great line. Those cubes are such squares.
Yeah. So, but Stanley is also Team Sphere, according to his earlier comments. So,
yes.
So you're biased.
You got to pick a side, bro. You can't. There's no bi-shaple here allowed.
Yeah. Right, don't be shapist.
Don't be shapist. Oh my gosh, I forget what she said, but Mrs. Know-It-All had made some observation. And I looked at her and I said, "It's because you're shapist." And it was hilarious. It was nothing at all like that, but it was the funniest thing because this was such a great episode for that kind of thing.
Now the plot was ultimately predictable. As soon as they said that the one dude was missing and all that, I was like, okay, so he's off banging a sphere. That was my initial thought.
Same.
Yeah. So, by the way, that's still my favorite shot of every Lower Decks episode this season is the giant battle. They've just gone so crazy with it. There, it's like, oh yeah, you think okay? Well, how about Apollo? Oh yeah, V'ger. It's like,
oh yeah, and everyone's like, and we're leaving and turning around and go.
Yeah. So it's just crazy to me how much they keep adding to this one shot. Oh, and the Tholians are drawing their web around everything.
Yep.
I just love it. I absolutely love it. I want the final episode for them to cram like 40 more things in there.
No, for sure. So I thought it was interesting that in this whole scene here, Mariner is this is really part of that plot that she's been dealing with, which is that Mariner's her growth plot is kind of getting we're seeing them fast forwarding everyone's development really fast this season.
Right.
Most likely because it's the final season.
Well, and it could be setting Mariner up for a solo series. Hint,
Would
hint.
you think if Tawny's going to be playing her again?
Yeah.
Which I think she should. I don't see why she should. Why she
Well,
couldn't.
but you know, I know that they've been saying Tawny's developing a live action comedy series for Star Trek. And so what better than to have Captain Mariner or something, you know? So it would make sense.
What if they did Starbase 80?
That would be hilarious.
And she decides she chooses that as her outpost. Because she finally comes full circle to that realization, like that one Starfleet officer showed her last week.
Only if they make the opening very reminiscent of Deep Space Nine.
Totally. Yes. Oh my god. Oh my god, I love that so much. Series Starbase, yeah, dude, right? Yeah, totally. That's right. Give Us No Other said the same exact thing.
Star Trek Deep Space 80.
Yeah, no, they meant 80. So, but yeah, I'm like, that's so smart. Like, what a great idea. Like, dude, I would watch the heck out of that. And then you can always have the people who played the characters on the Cerritos guest star once in a while.
Right.
Have her mom come to check on her one time. Have you could have Rutherford come in, stop by. I mean, everyone can totally play their characters.
Rutherford would be tough because that voice actor is not black.
I mean, I would argue Rutherford isn't black either. I would say he's more mixed.
Yeah, but the actor doesn't look like Rutherford at all. Like Tawny Newsome and what's his name? I always forget his name because I'm an
Jack Quaid.
Jack Quaid, yeah. They look exactly like their characters.
The nepotism is strong with that one.
Yes. So the rest of the cast, not so much. But
I don't know, Talyn, she could play Talyn, and I think the other gal could play.
I haven't seen the latest voices Talyn, so I don't know what she looks like.
She looks like Talyn. I swear. If you just put her in the bob haircut, that haircut, the Vulcan female haircut, she'd look exactly like her.
Okay.
And then I feel like the same with what's her face who plays Tendi. I think she could just shave her head.
Orion, so that's easy. Just spray
paint her. Just shave her head and make her green, and you're good to go.
Yeah. But I would love to, whatever they're going to do with Tawny Newsome, I'm looking forward to it. Although I do think that she's better with Boimler. And so
she needs a straight man, someone who she can like really play off of.
Right. And she and Boimler just have some great chemistry that's built over the last 5 years. So.
Jerry O'Connell, the sliders guy. Jerry O'Connell could totally play Ransom in real life.
Yeah, that's true.
I loved Sliders. That was a great show.
But I think he would hate to have to maintain that body.
He would totally hate that.
Because, you can't have Ransom without him ripping his shirt off every now and then.
No, for sure.
Oh
my gosh. The revelation that Rutherford and all of them know.
Yeah, they all know that he's got the pad from the other universe.
Yeah, the one they're nonchalant. Yeah, the one you stole from the other universe. What do we know?
Yeah, the bevel is slightly different. Well, it's also red.
Also red. It was great. Yeah. I thought it was so funny, especially because you see Rutherford trying to be super supportive like he always is, and then dude's like, I'm going to go do this thing. And he's like, wait, what? No, that's not okay. Like he realizes very quickly, he's like, he's just going to do whatever he wants. I need to just be supportive and move on with life.
The beard is coming in.
So, oh my God, it so is.
Soul
patch and everything.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing where it ends up by the end of the season. I wonder if it's because like Quaid wants to grow a beard for the, and so they were like, okay, well, we better give him a beard. But yeah, so I do like that everybody except for Boimler only notices the bevels on the pad are different.
Oh my God, yeah.
So and then of course
here we go.
She is Apollo's niece.
I thought it was so funny that they did this because I'm like, I would have never thought of bringing one of these species back, and the fact that the laurel is built onto as part of their biology.
Yeah, it's like the source of their energy and all that.
I love it so much. Did you think she was the one responsible for the hijinks that somehow she had accidentally?
No, I didn't see that one. I got to admit, they got me on that one. I didn't think that she was actually the person causing the problems.
So the whole time, I'm thinking that Mrs. Know-It-All was not as easily fooled. She was like, I don't think that's the cat. I'm like, no, it's totally her. because she was so dirty for a while. It's like and then you find out no, she's actually an engineer who clumsies her way through things.
Now, I wonder if they're introducing her so that she can be a part of the interdimensional stuff later.
Right? Okay, I was thinking something similar. I don't necessarily. I was like, the only value she has is she may have some insight because of her powers. So she's like Chekhov's character.
Right.
We don't introduce her unless we're gonna have her come back again.
Yeah, because she's too interesting a character to be a one-off.
And I also was wondering if she possibly could be like, because she's also felt strong enough to become a character on the show.
Right.
Like, I really thought her personality is the kind that I could see her easily, because it's going to end up being Talen and her left over once everybody starts going promotion wise and going other places. And I do believe that's going to be the case. Either Cerritos gets blown up by the end of the season and everyone gets reassigned, or something else. But everyone's going somewhere else by the end of this thing.
So yeah, I did find her character interesting, and I'm like, oh, I wonder how many other demigods are out there. You know, because now they opened up that can of worm. Because one thing we didn't think about was the fact that, okay, in the original series they established that the Greek gods were real; they were just aliens, and we also know from the lore that the Greek gods had this habit of, impregnating humans. And so does that mean there's a whole bunch of demigods out there in the Star Trek universe?
So somewhere there's like Hercules or some version thereof.
Yeah. Or other characters that we just haven't met because, who knows, since she's still relatively young, how long ago did Zeus give himself to the wind, or whatever they want to call it?
Yeah. They said it was.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I love the way that Beckett says that, and she's like, didn't Kirk kick their ass and they all like went to the wind or something?
That's hilarious.
Let's see. The last episode does say the new next generation. That's the name of the last episode.
Oh, right on.
Now that is nasty right there.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? I've heard about using one of those black lights at a hotel, but this is really rough.
Yeah, this is like worse than Riker in the holodecks. This is like, so the that whole thing, like you're wondering at first they're trying to set you up to think that that's like the remains of a cube.
Right.
But as soon as they said, no, that's not the remains of the cube, I was like, oh my gosh. Oh, the cube had sex. And that's...
Ew. Some things are allowed to just be implied. That's all I'm saying.
That was...
It's like having an uncomfortable conversation with my dad. Stop it.
Yeah. So it's like, I didn't need them to go there. But it was funny, but it was really gross.
Then, of course, you have Stanley with the sage wisdom.
Yes, no, that could fit in an orifice. Yes, I will try to remember that.
True story, man.
It's like somebody needs to come up with a company called like Gideon's Vibrators.
Wow.
Put them right next to the Bible in the drawer.
I'll go with this, Justin. It really is too bad this is the last season for Lower Decks. It easily could have went for full 7 seasons, no problem. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that, granted, for any streaming service, typically 3 years is the run.
Yeah, agreed.
And so the fact that they're taking it to 5 is an accomplishment in and of itself. But I really don't like that streaming, has these really super short seasons. And sometimes you have to wait years in between them. It seems like for whatever reason, and now it's kind of funny because on the one hand, you have this sparse content. On the other hand, it's usually higher quality because streaming services, because of their stupid, insane budgets and stuff, can tend to attract big name actors, can get better production value, stuff like that. But with Lower Decks, it's not really none of that's really an issue.
Agreed.
Because none of these actors were household names before this show. The closest you could say would be Quaid, but that's just...
But that's been after he blew up because of a combination of The Boys. He was in Oppenheimer. He's
Right.
done so, and with a very small cameo that turned into a much more important role for him.
Right.
Then he's been in other things now. Like his schedule, he's getting serious schedule issues at this point, which is great. Good for him.
Yeah.
I love to see more, dude. More of him all day. And if nepotism put a really talented guy in front of my face, I'm down.
Mhm.
I'm always saying that because I don't ever. I made the joke earlier, but the truth is, I'm total like I love everything about Jack Quaid. He both seems like a good person and an excellent actor.
Right.
And
So I'm hoping that we haven't seen the last of him in Trek.
agreed.
But whatever they end up doing, I think that 5 seasons is a nice accomplishment, but it would have been nice if those seasons were longer.
For real, because you only get. It's funny. It's everyone's like the longest running show, Star Trek Discovery, with less than a quarter of the episodes of any series.
Yeah. Yeah, Discovery has less episodes than the original series that was canceled after 3 seasons. So
I'm like, what is going on here?
I mean, heck, the Star Trek the animated series has almost 2 seasons worth of content for Discovery.
Agreed.
So it's like, come on.
So the scene that we're looking at right now, there's this little like side plot where Boimler, we're following him and his goal to become perfect Boimler from that other universe.
Yes.
And there was an event having to surrounding in that other universe when they experienced this mission. Boimler got himself invited to the book club for the Doctor by being somehow whatever chummy with her, and ended up getting a nickname. And so he's trying his best to make and force those things to happen.
Yes.
And it's
failing.
Yeah, badly. This is one of my favorites because he decides midway through his tactic is, well, I should just talk like her, which is the heavy cursing and everything.
Yeah.
And he proceeds to insult her. They get into a fight. She rips him apart. It's hilarious. And then he does in fact get a nickname finally.
Yes. And it's bleeped.
It's great. I'm like, right on, man. Or as my kid put it in our review, she's like, it's F something O.
Yeah, I think it's the F word followed by O.
Yeah, I was like, right on, man.
Yeah.
It was just so funny, and then seeing the character just kind of it's watching Boimler try to make this thing happen is kind of hilarious.
Well, even though and it's like people say underused, I don't think the Doctor is underused because if they had her front and center in every episode, it would get old very fast.
Agreed.
But I love every time she's there because she is so over the. I mean, she is Pulaski times McCoy as far as grumpiness.
Absolutely.
And I love that, because they just took the grumpy Doctor to the ultimate extreme and turned her into a vicious killer, so.
Yeah, which is great.
So
Mariner,
how do shapes work out? I still don't understand that.
apparently they float things above their heads.
Yeah.
When they're glowing, they're not dressed. If
Yeah, that's their being naked. Oh, I'm not glowing. It's like, what?
Yeah.
And just start glowing.
Ultimately, they do find the oh my god, that's right. They start this massive war. Let me ask you a question. Did anyone know that these things were capable of just blasting through everything, the hull and the ship? Like, this would not be safe. I would never have let these things on our ship.
Right. And remember, these creatures can survive in the vacuum of space.
Right.
So if they blow a hole in the wall, they don't care.
Yeah, who thought this was a good idea? The minute I watched it, I'm like, are you kidding me? That's insane. Yeah, man.
That's how stupid Starfleet or Federation is, though.
And the whole thing I'm thinking to myself is how they're Swiss cheesing the ship, man. How much of the ship can the ship afford to be blown up like this?
And then they all go outside and turn into giant, Megazord versions of themselves.
Yeah, which I thought was hilarious.
And so,
there they go. Yeah, too funny.
Yeah, which at least the cubes fit together. How did the spheres work? I don't get.
They balled up, I guess.
Balled up.
You should have looked bumpy, if anything.
Yeah, and they went balls.
I'm okay with you being a round ball, but it'd be bumpy because there's no way you guys can interlock when you're being when you're a ball on a ball.
Yeah.
Unlike the cube guys, which were like, yeah, no, you're basically just the Borg.
Yeah.
You just recubed yourself. It's fine.
As long as you have a cube of 1 as far as the number of cubes, you know. So you have 1, or then you have 4, or then you have whatever, what would it be, 16?
Yeah.
16. And that, as long as you have a cube multiple, then you can make a perfect cube out of the cubes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I get that. I get that.
I know I'm saying it clumsily because I can't.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
But
the Space Invader looking aliens? No kidding, dude. That's so true, creep.
a factor of 4. That's what I'm thinking of. Any number of cubes with a factor of 4. Something.
So, okay, real quick, can we talk about floppy lightning power? What is? I have a big issue with this. This made me. I don't know why it made me so uncomfortable.
Well, because
she went to use her powers and it was like, it's just a whole bunch of floppy lightning bolts.
Flaccid lightning.
Yes. And I'm like, what is going on here?
Well, it's because she's only half god.
So she can't make. Never mind.
So she needs some godly vitality.
In order to have turgid lightning, you must.
Yeah. She's a Jedi. Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
What is she, a Jedi like the green chick from Acolyte with her floppy lightsaber?
Yes. Great. Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh! And then you get what's her face to use her powers to make them all smaller.
Yes.
And then they have these two who got together, and they had apparently a kid.
Yes, that is a cube square
with like a little erasery bottom part.
Yeah, it's yes.
What is going on here? What have we become? Okay, what even is this episode? No, this episode is why we tuned into Star Trek rather, Lower Decks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is why because this Star Trek Lower Decks gives us such hilariously fun ridiculousness to watch and kind of really get into. That I because we all know how silly some of the things are, and they lean into those things, and they do it reverently, which, if that makes any sense,
right?
And I do appreciate that a lot. So, yeah.
You made me think of something horrible with your flaccid lightning comment.
Oh God!
Do you know the song "Brandy"?
Yes.
Do you realize how filthy that song is?
Oh my gosh! Totally.
I didn't realize it because it's in my playlist of music that I listen to when I'm out driving Uber, and just because it's a nice tune and everything, and but then I actually was paying attention to the lyrics one time. I was like, oh my gosh, did he is. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, if you know the tune, there's a part of the song, and let me see, yeah.
Maybe know what I called it. She called it a discount dreidel.
Discount dreidel.
The little baby they made. I'm sorry, go on.
Brandy used to watch his eyes when he told his sailor stories. She could feel the ocean fall and rise. She saw the raging glory.
Okay, yeah, I hear you. I hear what you're saying, sir. I think you're making a valid point at this point. Yeah.
I was like, at first I was like, okay, they're talking about oh no, they're not. That's really filthy.
Yeah.
That's as filthy as a song can get. That's worse than like WAP. But
or the Christmas song everyone hates, Baby Don't.
Oh yeah, Baby It's Cold Outside. Man, I saw a comedian. I know we're going on a tangent here, but you got to hear it. I saw a comedian who was talking about the fact that they were trying to. Remember, this happened a couple of years ago. They were trying to cancel.
Yeah.
Baby It's Cold Outside.
Yes.
And talking about what a horrible song that was. So he goes, so I thought, so we could try to have a logical, analytical time with this and compare this song to, I don't know, the number one hip hop song today. Baby It's Cold Outside. You don't really want to leave. Baby It's Cold Outside. Just one more cigarette, that kind of. And then he goes, my effing pee is wide open for you. Let me drip all over you. Just all this really nasty stuff.
I think I have seen that. I've seen that clip. I saw it on TikTok.
Yeah, then he goes back to baby, it's cold outside. And
Yeah.
it's like, how are you like trying to cancel this song with
No,
that?
for sure.
Anyway.
Which is clearly about a couple being playful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, I didn't never, whatever. Anyway. Yes. I
You know
agree
what would
with
be funny? If I had the musical talent, I would re-record "Baby It's Cold Outside," but like just say, "I want to rape you tonight."
Wow.
Just like completely do what they think the song is.
That's so funny. And so I love this ending part. Baby Know It All pointed it out to me because it ends exactly the way Mariner ended when she in
the first episode.
Yeah. So it was literally, this was like a full circle Mariner arc moment where she gets to be the buddy way hanging out with her friend who's in the brig now. And I was like, okay. And it was Baby Know It All pointed that out. I was like, right on, girl.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I like the fact that this ending was very reminiscent of episode 1.
Yeah. I feel like they get the assignment, which is that they're clearly ending and wrapping things up and wanting it to be as satisfying as possible. And that makes me very happy. I'm down.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that it's a shame if a series is just canceled out of the blue.
Yeah.
I can understand that, all of a sudden you have unresolved issues and all that. But they knew going into season 5 that was going to be it.
Yeah.
And so,
but I'm with you. The unresolved issues. That's the reason why. That's another reason. I'll be honest. I don't watch more Netflix because Netflix is the first ones that got me real hardcore with that in the beginning when they first started making their own stuff and it was really good. And they were kind of with all kinds of new things. And I was like, oh, this looks awesome. We get through one season only to find out a year later they're not going to have a season 2, and you're like, why? Why did you make me invest my time in this? And I started like really waiting to see if things have traction.
Yeah, I
commit.
I think there should be a law, like the government needs to step in and do some regulation.
Look here. All this regulating things like, women biology and nature and whatever else we're supposed to, all the controversial stuff, put it all away.
Yeah.
This is the hard-hitting stuff we need.
You heard it here first, folks. Is we need government regulation stating that you cannot end a season on a cliffhanger unless another season is already in pre-production.
Right. Can you imagine? All the hard-hitting things, and this is what we're worried about right now.
No, I'm telling you right now.
All that being said, there will be a petition put into the description, so please feel free to sign our change.org petition for this.
Oh, forget change.org. I'm telling you right now, I'm officially announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
And this is your platform?
Yeah, for the year 2028. And my entire platform is I am going to force Netflix to not put a cliffhanger at the end of their show.
And every show you've wanted to see a second season for, we're gonna make it happen.
Yes.
And do you realize how many votes you'd actually get? I don't think you get enough to be president, but I think you'd get shockingly more than you think.
Oh yeah, if you could actually get the advertisement out there and tell people
you would get way more. Like it was like, dude, people would be like, seriously.
And you know what? I want to go to the debates. Because at the debates, they're going to say, a woman's right to choose has been an important issue for millions of Americans. How do you feel about that? And then they go to the other candidate, and they're like, if they're Republican, well, I believe we need to protect the sanctity of life. Or the Democrat, well, I believe we need to protect a woman's right to choose. And then they get over to me, and I'd be like, you know what? Abortion's a thing, but let me talk to you about Netflix for a minute.
You're like, in fact, it's so much of a thing. We have this documentary to talk about this side.
Did you know
this other documentary to talk about the other side?
Did you know there was a Netflix series about abortion that didn't need a second season?
Right. Yes. And as it was, don't you wish we could have answered this question better if there had been a second season?
Yeah.
But there wasn't. If we get elected, we will finally find out the answer to that question.
So yes, vote for Salty 2028. It's and Mr. Know-It-All will be he'll be my
let's go.
My running mate. You don't even have to wait to find out who my running mate is. It's already decided. It's
right.
Yeah, Mr. Know-It-All and I are running. So He's gonna, he's gonna back me up on all this.
Oh my god, I love this so much. Creep is dead right. Stargate SG-1 had like 4 series endings. You're absolutely right, because the next seasons were not guaranteed, and they didn't want the show to end on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Every year. So they were. If you remember, that was when the show started getting weird. Normally, your show right before you would cross over from fall into spring. Summer would be your break, and then you'd come back and do the same thing. This show didn't do that because they were like, we're waiting. We don't know if we're going to get another season. We got to, and they wouldn't know until like halfway to when they were supposed to start producing the next season.
Right.
So it was a very, very not a good way to do stuff at the time.
And that is more typical, like, especially with television, not so much with streaming, but with television, it's generally not known until like midway through the summer break whether or not there's going to be a show in the fall.
Yeah.
And so, because they have to wait for the ratings to come in and do all the math and all that and say, is it worth it for us to do this?
Yeah, can we get advertisers to help make this up?
Right. Whereas with streaming services, they don't need to, even though now it's so annoying that now you get commercials on pretty much every streaming service. But the streaming services, they depend more on subscription revenue than advertiser revenue. And so that doesn't have to be the mitigating factor. They can simply decide, hey, we think this show is good enough to guarantee 2 seasons. And then after the first season comes out, if it's popular enough, we'll greenlight a third, that kind of thing.
Daniel Stenson would like everyone to know there is nothing to watch on Netflix.
Yeah, well, Netflix is actually the French version of
I was gonna say it's the like Norwegian or what's the ones where they say Bjorn?
Yeah.
Or like the J is not a real letter. It's
No, Jetflix is how they say
That's right. And
if you go to Jetflix in France, it's all shows that are nothing but it's called, the Surrender Network, where like
wow, that's awesome.
We surrender to you.
That's the best
for $9.95 a month.
That's awesome. It makes you feel empowered.
Yes. So join us on Jetflix.
Jetflix.
We will show you all the episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Absolutely.
The only true Star Trek.
Yeah, man. I think Mariner's one of those characters that's showing them one of the most like biggest growth arcs.
Yes.
And I'm with you. I have a feeling they're setting this up. I would kind of dig it if we don't get Star Trek Legacy because of something like this. I think I'm okay with that.
I would rather see a Mariner show than Legacy.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I feel like Legacy would be straight up, how do we tell the same stories we've told, but in this new font?
Right.
And I feel like you're already doing that really well with Strange New Worlds. So if you want to just exist in this time period, just continue with the Mariner. We all have fondness, and you're not going to try to change our minds about this time period. So just keep showing people on the periphery. You know what I mean? I would love to follow Mariner's
You've
career.
seen the best, now see the rest.
That's perfect. Why not?
I'm absolutely down. I like seeing, what feels like more real people. Because don't get me wrong, and there's a lot to love in the so-called Berman era of Trek.
Sure.
And in fact, Deep Space Nine, I still hold in high regard as far as shows.
I agree.
But at the same time, I get a little tired of throughout the Berman era, and is that everybody that we see in Starfleet is like perfect. There are these pillars of virtue, and everything is good. Now, granted, I know Sisko went to some dark places a couple of times, but most of the time, he's perfect. And
hold on. I thought you were the guy that liked black and white and Heroes Not. And
no. Hold on.
Okay.
There's a difference between Star Trek and Star Wars. Okay.
Okay, fair. That's fair. I'm willing to go there. Go on.
Star Wars is fantasy, and fantasy, I want good versus evil, and that kind of thing. With Star Trek is true science fiction. And I'm not saying that I want captains that are twisted and evil or anything like that, but I want people to feel like real people. And then if you look at the original series, that crew felt like a group of real people trying to work together. And they were all good at various things, but they weren't all good at everything.
Fair enough.
Like if you look at the crew of the Enterprise D, just as pulling an example, right?
Sure.
Is aside from surgery or some high end thing like that, most jobs on the ship anybody could do. You could take most episodes of the show and move the characters around. So instead of being Worf, it's Riker. Instead of being Troy, it's Crusher. Instead of being Picard, it's Data. And the story wouldn't be affected. That's the problem, is that the characters are too much alike. And because they're all so good that and of course it was even a hand down from Roddenberry in the early days, is that you can't have interpersonal conflict. And it's like,
Yeah.
and the thing is, like, you go back to the original series. Why is the original series so charming? In large part because of the interpersonal conflict. Spock and McCoy, oh my gosh, their fights are legendary.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Scotty wasn't the cheerful, I can get it done engineer like Geordi.
He was an
Scotty was like,
alcoholic.
what the hell are you asking me to do, you idiot?
And he was an alcoholic.
Yeah. So, but
I saw a video where someone said this.
well, and he's an unapologetic one. That's the thing.
It's true. No, it's true.
Like they didn't make it into a thing where, in this very special episode of Star
Yeah,
Trek,
that's right. No, he's just
he confronts his alcohol.
Yeah,
No,
no, for real.
it's like he drinks a guy under the table as part of the plot. That's how
awesome.
that's how they beat the bad guys.
it's good stuff, man. Because you know what was important back then.
And so that's what I like about Lower Decks, is that they bring back some of that.
Agreed.
And Lower Decks, these don't feel like everybody's an expert at everything, And so, yes, they throw in the techno jargon from other shows, but usually as a joke,
True.
And so, no, I really like that. I want to see characters have genuine character flaws. Not their character flaw feels like kryptonite for Superman, where it's something really stupid and out of the left field. I want Boimler has a serious confidence issue. Mariner has a serious overconfidence issue. And so these are not perfect people. So what was that creep was saying? It's not scientifically possible for a sentient mini elephant musician entertaining a giant slug overlord. Oh, you're talking about Jabba. I was like, I would say that, is it scientifically possible?
I mean, sure.
Yeah, maybe, but that's not.
Seriously?
But it's not about, like, Star Wars doesn't care about if it's scientifically possible. That's
true. That's true.
Star Wars is just about telling bold adventures with, Luke is literally a knight. I mean, that's why they call him Jedi Knights, is that he's supposed to be your allegory to a knight in shining armor fighting the evil dragon. They just turn it into a lightsaber wielding Jedi versus a giant sentient slug.
I'm down.
Yeah. And it's awesome. But that's not the same thing as Star Trek.
No, and I agree with that.
Yeah. Let's see. Ben One Eye says they could never bring back all of that. They would have to keep a happy. Yeah, but I think Lower Decks is the happy medium. That's my point. And no, there are no gray Jedi. I will not acknowledge the gray Jedi. I hate the concept of gray Jedi. So,
I love that so much. She's like, no.
nope, I reject you. Gray Jedi are stupid. Your argument is invalid.
Nice. It's good stuff. It's good to see we like to use mature arguments here on NerdFights.
Yes, only the best.
Only the best, most mature arguments for us.
We have the best arguments, the most mature arguments.
That's right. My arguments are
All the experts agree.
That's right. All the experts agree our arguments are the best.
Yes.
So I had wanted to actually get into a little bit of a discussion with you regarding the OTOY technology that we just watched from that thing again. I feel like it was I did enjoy
8765309.
Yes. So I did absolutely enjoy the thing itself, but it got me starting to think more.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically along the lines of, well, what are we The question I want to ask is not so much about this thing anymore specifically, but about what it could present.
The
Are
can
we
of
looking
worms
at
kind of thing.
are we looking at the we're facing two paths as potentially Star Trek right now. One is, do we use this new technology OTOY is presenting, and do we want to embrace or push Paramount to potentially one day embrace the idea of getting these people's estates in line and everybody getting it together and getting new classic Star Trek, where you have actors who would capture their body performances and the writing and everything else, and we can use everything to cover voices and characters and whatnot with the new facial prosthesis is what they're calling, digital prosthesis, whatever nonsense name they want to come up with. I say nonsense name because it all boils down to the same thing, and that's fine.
It's deep fake, but they don't want to call it deep fake because
Right, because deepfake has a disingenuousness about it or something.
Right.
I don't know, whatever. My point is, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I was just saying I could care less. But my point is, like, is that one road, or is the recasting of Strange New World type setup where we're getting a new look at, because one preserves the people we loved, the other preserves the characters we love.
right.
Because I feel like the issue you're going to have is, yes, we're going to get 101,000 stories, but how can that move forward? Do we then do stories in the Lost timeline? Do we then do we move and where does it stop?
Right.
You know what I mean? Or is it about seeing all of this through a new lens, using the new actors like Ethan Peck and these people who are very honoring Cecilia Rose Gooding, who's very honoring of the roles that they're taking on.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about what we feel like those two paths look like.
Okay, real quick though, before I give my response.
Sure.
So Stanley was saying David is a bastard, referring to the idea that Kirk never got married and was Kirk's true love. So let me explain. No, Kirk was married. His wife died. Her name was Miramani.
Wow.
And in fact, she was pregnant with his child when she died. So yeah, so you could argue that Miramani was Kirk's true love, because when Kirk got his mind wiped, when he got a fresh reboot, he fell in love and settled down with Miramani, and it was only when his brain was basically when he got his memories back that he went back to the Enterprise. So, you know. I think that's interesting. Now, as far as the question about the digital prosthesis, deep fake, whatever stuff,
Sure. I'm just curious what your take
I
on
tend to
this.
think, okay, so did I think that the unification video was good? Absolutely. Do I want to see entire shows like that? No, not at all.
Well, not like that, but
No, but using the digital techniques to bring back characters from the dead, or at least, or de-aging them for those that are still alive. I can see it done occasionally as part of a one-off thing. Like, for example, Data in Picard season 1, right? Now, granted, it was kind of sloppily done in Picard.
they actually apparently they someone asked them that question. They have a test footage where they after the fact redid Data.
It probably looked better too.
It did, and it's using their technology. And all they did was they didn't have to do anything. They just took the scene, fed it through the same software they feed in the camera, and said this character needs to become this character replaced with this.
Right.
And it did it the same way you could see in one screen Sam Witwer, and the other screen you saw Shatner-esque Kirk. Shatner-esque. Sound like I said Shatner-ass Kirk. Shatner-esque Kirk.
Right.
Side by side, that's how it looked, and I've seen photo of that image. I haven't actually seen the video, but I'm like, that was so neat that there's that possibility. Because you're right, I think it would have served really well to have had actual. I mean, can you imagine how impactful that moment would have been if they would have really embraced de-aging technology for that moment?
Oh yeah, I think that would have worked. But at the same time, do I want a Data series where you have a de-aged Data as the main character? No. Do I want them to start making this the standard for a show? No, I think it's okay to do it as a guest type start. Like Data was not the main character of the Picard series, and he wasn't in that much of the first season of Picard. And of course, when they brought Data around in season 3, they had pseudo explanations for his aging. Fine, but as far as season 1, it should have looked like classic Data. And so, but season 1 was about Picard's journey, And at the end, yes, we had that really nice conversation with Picard and Data as Data says, "Okay, pull the plug on me." Um, the if that was a DH Data, I'd be fine with it. But do I want like a new Picard series where they DH Patrick Stewart? No. Do I want to see a William Shatner led Star Trek series? As much as I love William Shatner's Captain Kirk, like I said, the moment when you saw Kirk with the yellow shirt, I got chills. Right in that
It was pretty amazing. No, it was great.
and that being said, I don't want to see them bring back that character. To me, it's like, okay, there are 79 episodes with that character in it, and 80 if you count this short. But at the same time, I don't think that I'm okay with them moving on from that. I'm like Strange New Worlds. There's a new Captain Kirk in town, and this Captain Kirk is in an alternate timeline. I'm sorry, triple timeline is real. The And so that's why he looks different. But I'm totally down with the idea that okay, let's move forward and honor the characters because the characters are bigger than the actors.
And I have to a point I agree with you, and I'm not. This is not me being argumentative. I do agree with you.
Yeah.
I feel like but I do understand. I feel like there's a universe in which people sit here and say, but are we being respectful to the essence of who William Shatner made Kirk to be? Because Kirk was both the product of the writing, yes, but also of the interpretation of these very unique actors
Right.
on what the character would be. I think a great example is the Spocks we've had have all been interpretations, but I feel like honestly, until the Ethan Peck version from Strange New Worlds, not even Ethan Peck version from Discovery, but the Ethan Peck version of Strange New Worlds, do I actually feel like he's channeling what I know to be the energy of the character?
Right. And he's
Like,
not
I'm
being
down.
Leonard Nimoy. He's being Spock.
Yes. Thank you. I feel like that's a huge difference people don't understand because I'm with you. This feels like Spock energy.
Right. And that's something I actually told Ethan Peck at the con is that, I really, like I said, Zachary Quinto he's a fine actor. He looks like Spock, all that. I'm not dissing Zachary Quinto. But did I feel like that was Spock? No. It felt like it was someone imitating Spock.
Stanley says, keep the essence of the character, but let new actors put their stamp. Like James Bond, I feel like.
Right. But yeah, and I have no problem with is it Sicily? Is that her name? I always get it wrong. The Uhura.
Well, yeah. Cecile, I thought it was Cecilia, but
Oh yeah, it's like it's a weird spelling. She even says at the con nobody ever gets her name right. But but she is definitely different than the Shell's Uhura. But she does feel like Uhura. It doesn't feel, I don't want them to do an imitation of the other actor. I want them to channel that character. And so, and in fact, that's where writing becomes so important as well.
agreed.
The writers have got to know the character. And I felt like when we saw what, I always forget the name of it, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, I think it was.
Yeah.
Where La'an goes back in time with Kirk. That episode channeled Kirk.
Yeah, I did.
And in fact, the thing is that they
hold on. Tell me which scene in that for you did it. I'll tell you which one for me did it.
the fact that he didn't sleep with La'an.
That's true. The hot dog scene.
The hot dog scene too. Yeah, that
When he was being, I was like, that's like I'm clever and playful Kirk. Like we've seen William Shatner do that version, and I'm like, that's okay. That's for some reason made me go, oh, I get it. Very, very cool.
But yeah, but the thing is, the reason the not having sex scene hit it for me was that too many people just say, "Oh, Kirk is a horn dog. He's a ladies' man," and that all, and that's what we saw with Chris Pine, right? Chris Pine was banging everything that moved, but this Kirk, but that's not Kirk. If you look at Kirk, he was in love a couple of times in the original series. There's Edith Keeler, there's Miramani. Those were truly Kirk in love.
I agree.
Then you have a few times like in By Any Other Name and other episodes where Kirk would sleep with the other person, but he was really just using his sexuality to try and accomplish the mission. And I
He
know
was he was trying to be a honeypot.
it was like James Bond, right? So I mean, think
Oh,
about
I
it.
got you. I totally got you.
Yeah, James Bond wasn't having sex with all these women just because he's a sexaholic.
Oh no, of course not.
He was doing it in large part in order to get closer to his ultimate goal.
Which I would argue is most men's argument.
Well, but yeah, most men are lying. But James Bond truly did it for Queen and Country, right? And so, and I think Kirk did too. Whereas, and then there are other times where Kirk doesn't have sex, but we think, we like instinctively think he did. People think he had, even though I joked about it in that one song I wrote, but that he banged Batgirl, right? But
Right.
he didn't. She wanted to have sex with him. They never did. Same with Helen Noel from the Dagger of the Mind. She wanted to have sex with Kirk, but they never did.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, the comment section is just going off right now about all this.
Oh goodness. But the
You can also say that both Kirk and Bond didn't enjoy doing that. Thank you, Ben One Eye.
well, you know what? That's fine to enjoy your work. But
Stanley goes, and the martinis weren't just because he's an alcoholic.
I think for some reason Bond likes martinis, and I don't understand why, because I think martinis are nasty. But that's
I've actually, because of James Bond, I've tried martinis. They're not great.
no.
You add something to, like, get any kind of martini you want that isn't just a straight martini, and you're good.
Right. Like if you have an apple teeny or something.
Absolutely. They are
That's not James Bond would never say, "Give me an apple teeny."
never. But you know what? Oh well, I guess I'm not James Bond. Move on.
Yeah. James Bond is like, yeah, pour some paint thinner in a cup and give it to me. But
Put
the
olives on top to make me look classy.
yeah, but Kirk was not a man slut. He did what he had to do at times. He fell in love a couple of times. But he was never just like, going from woman to woman to woman saying, "Hey, baby," that's not him. In fact, most of the times, there's a couple of times where, like, we see Ruth, we see all these women that he had serious relationships with.
Yes.
These were not casual flings, and that's the thing. I think that people get confused, that they think, well, Kirk may have had a few ladies in his past.
I really did like that they tried to give him some depth in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
When he kind of explains, he's like, "Yeah, no, I get it, this and that." He's like, "But I'm actually,
Yeah, he was with Carol.
yeah."
And
I'm like, good for you, bro.
yeah, Kirk doesn't cheat.
No, he's a good guy. You can tell.
He's a man of honor. He may now, the minute he breaks up with Carol, he might hook up with someone else, but he's not going to cheat on Carol.
No.
Just like and he wouldn't cheat on the person he hooked up with afterwards. He's just he is. I think one person called him a serial monogamist.
That's right. A serial monogamist.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's great.
But I think but that's why that scene to me really hit home, because the writers could have very easily thrown in a sex scene with him and La'an.
So the reason I even brought some of this stuff up is because on top of all those other things, they've been focusing on these featurettes that they're putting out at OTOY for about all this, and one of them was one with George Takei giving his 2 cents. The other one was obviously William Shatner, but then there was one with the actress who played Savick. I remember her name right this second.
Robin Curtis.
Thank you, Robin Curtis. And there's a test scene that they didn't use, which is basically lifted right from a comic book, and she plays herself younger, and aside from the voice having a little maturity behind it, it's amazing. And I feel like in moments like if there's opportunity to give some folks a second bite at the apple at an older age, like, I would love to see something like that.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
it was really inspiring to see she still was pulling the emotional and everything. Again, I think the voices you'd have to tweak, maybe using an AI overlay where you clone her younger voice and just overlay it over her current performance, which is a thing they can do. And it would sound like you would be lost. It would sound amazing.
Well, I think about like imagine if you were doing a multiversal type show.
Sure.
You're trying to explain the triple timeline or something.
Something like that.
I'm just saying, Kurtzman, give me a call, right?
That's right. Watch how fast.
But imagine if Pike saw the another Enterprise, and it was the Constitution class from the original series, and when they hailed him, it was Pike, but it was Jeffrey Hunter.
Oh yeah, wow.
And so you start getting into these weird ideas that okay, so maybe the reason they look different is because it's a different timeline, and that helps you clear the path for the fans. So the because I kept hearing, oh yeah, look, Captain Kirk looks like Jim Carrey now, stuff like that, and it's like, well, it's a different timeline, so of course Kirk looks a little different. That's fine. So but we need to confront it in canon. Because I think that as Star Trek becomes more and more convoluted, and it'll only become more convoluted as time goes on, unless you do a total reboot where you just ignore everything that came forward, and the fans will get, they'll be
Or you just keep tell your stories and recast as necessary over time.
right. But if
why not?
keep in mind, like with the Klingons, they changed the Klingons, and then it was years and years, decades later before, well, not decades, but decade
Pretty much.
later before they acknowledge that yes, the Klingons look different, and the original explanation was just Worf saying, yeah, we don't talk about it, but at least they acknowledged that yes, there's an aesthetic change. Now, but then how do you explain that with the Klingons and Discovery and Strange New Worlds? Well, you can't. Unless it's a different timeline in which, and in this timeline, the Klingons didn't change. More evidence for the triple timeline theory, it looks like. Because in this timeline, the Klingons didn't change.
Wow. Are you keeping track of this all somewhere?
I'm trying. Actually, that would make a quadruple timeline, so I better leave that one out.
Or just find out when it would have be as a result of one event. It could still exist within.
Well, no, because if Enterprise takes place in the alternate timeline, the Klingons do change in Enterprise, so that kind of messes up that part of it. So you'd have to have a timeline where the Klingons did change and another timeline where they didn't. Both alternate timelines from the original. It gets confusing. We don't have an explanation in canon yet for the Klingorks.
Really?
No, there's no explanation to why they look like that in Discovery. Other than it was just an artistic interpretation.
Honestly, I think that's really what that ended up being.
Yeah.
Well,
And Ben, no, parallel is different than alternate. Parallel is like the mirror universe is a parallel universe, at least as it was portrayed in Mirror Mirror. The mirror universe in every other instance is an alternate timeline. But I think
wouldn't it be alternate timelines of the mirror universe?
yes, that's what I say. So you have the prime mirror universe and the prime universe are always reflections of each other.
Right.
But each one can have its own individual variants of when events go awry.
Right.
So like when the Defiant appears in the mirror timeline, that created a divergent mirror timeline. Much like how when Nero went back and hit the divergent timeline with Discovery,
Right.
it created the Kelvin timeline. So yeah.
Right on, man.
Yeah. Wesley Crusher visits. I'm the multiverse series. Wait, what? There are variants of Kirk. So there are variants of Kirk's the multiverse. Yeah, but right now we have 3 clear variants of Kirk. We have the William Shatner variant, the original. We have the Chris Pine variant, and then we have what's his name, Paul Wesley.
Yeah.
I think his name,
Yeah.
who's playing Kirk currently on Strange New Worlds. And so using multiple timelines, it's easy to explain why they look different.
Agreed.
Just like there are 3 Spocks, right? Leonard Nimoy, Zachary Quinto, and now Ethan Peck. We've only had 2 Pikes. thus far. But that's or no, we've had 3 Pikes. I forgot. We have Bruce Greenwood as Pike in the Kelvin timeline, and so we have Bruce Greenwood, Jeffrey Hunter, and
Hey,
Anson Mount.
Thomas Potts is in, checks in.
Yeah, take your crazy pills, Salty. Oh, okay, thank you. I got my crazy pill. See, I'm listening to you, Thomas.
Nice.
Getting my crazy pills out.
But yeah, I find myself asking that same question. I feel like there's instances where you might be able to do cool like shorts or something. Almost like I think you do this, and if you could do it like Star Wars has done with their Visions line, which is you pick moments and you do a series of these that are maybe only about 12 to 15 minutes. They're not actual long episodes of anything, and they're just designed to fill in gap moments. You know, maybe you do the moment after Wesley Crusher leaves with the Traveler, and you de-age, you know, Will Wheaton to look like a younger version of himself, and you get to see sort of those early first steps and watch him evolve into being the Wesley Crusher eventually, who we see in Prodigy and other places, you know, other ancillary material. They like that. I think that's a cool thought process. That's a cool way to show this, and you can still have actual Will Wheaton portraying himself from when he was younger, which almost becomes an exercise in acting in and of itself, which I think would be fun.
How about Kirk meeting Carol Marcus?
Bro, right?
There's a
How
story.
cool would that be?
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Because based on the timeline, Kirk had to have met Carol prior to the original series.
Yeah.
And so I would, how did they meet? Carol Marcus is a doctor, right? So maybe after Kirk's, the incident on the Farragut, Carol Marcus is the one who treated him.
Sure. You can totally see that.
You know?
Maybe they meet when she was a nurse still or whatever, because she's training to become a doctor.
Yeah. So you could absolutely do stuff like that. And I would be okay with that kind of stuff. I just don't want to see a series starring a de-aged William Shatner.
No, again, I think you do like they've done with Star Wars Visions, where it's these small little pill-sized ancillary momentary whatevers. You know, they fill in extra moments of story, so to speak. And I think there's a cool version of that where you get to visit moments that you would have loved to have seen the additional or addendum of.
Yes.
Give us a brief adventure with Thomas Riker. You know what I mean? And you
I wouldn't mind. So if you were doing an entire series like this, like what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I would love to see the Mark Leonard's Romulan commander being given the mission.
That sounds so cool.
You know, because we saw how he has doubts about the Empire.
Yeah.
And so how did he feel when he's given the honor of going to be the first Romulan to attack the Federation?
Yeah, that'd be very cool. It's a piece of the storyline that I think could be better served in that light. And again, all of this just brings up new thoughts about, well, what kind of storytelling could we get into? You know, which is why I even asked, and because now obviously we're talking about the preferred path, which would ultimately be let Anson Mount and the Strange New Worlds people cook and let them do their thing, and as we approach those stories, just keep introducing these characters and let whatever happens organically happen. Yeah, and I think you reach a place where you go, okay, because obviously Pike's accident doesn't happen until after he leaves being a captain of the Enterprise. It's not like it happened like the next day.
You know, but that's the interesting thing is that now, at least in Strange New Worlds, they from the series finale of season 1, which I did love that episode,
Right?
But they kind of implied that if the accident hadn't have happened, Pike would still be captain of the Enterprise.
I think you're right.
And so, if that's the case, now we know the accident happened on a training vessel. We also know that Kirk, that Pike was at some point a fleet captain. And so it's entirely possible that a training vessel was in the area, Pike beamed over, and then there was the accident. And so
that would be so bad.
You know, but I'm just saying but there is no explanation to that, right?
Right.
and then Kirk was given the Enterprise, but Kirk didn't know why he was given the Enterprise.
He's
Because
just they're going, oh man, I guess
yeah,
hopefully I get to see my good buddy Captain Pike again. You know, thinking after all, the guy was instrumental in me getting to learn with his XO and all that other great experiences that happened canonically.
yeah, you'd think that it would have come up, but at the same time, let's keep in mind that the Menagerie is a fairly early season 1 episode.
It's
And,
true.
and so you could assume for a minute that Kirk was only the captain of the Enterprise for months before he found out that Pike had been in an accident.
Okay.
Because the way that in the conversation with the base commander, I'm forgetting his name now, but when they were talking about it, he's like, "Oh yeah, you know Pike. He's about your age." He's like, "Yeah, I took over the Enterprise from him. Spock served under him, right?" And so the assumption is that Pike was there when Kirk took over the Enterprise,
Right.
but that is an assumption. Maybe Pike was. They could have just as easily said, "Well, Pike's on medical leave."
To answer Ben One Eye's question, did Kirk have previous command like Picard did? Yes and no. He served aboard the Farragut as its XO.
Yeah, which they've already shown in Strange New Worlds
Right.
that he's training for that position.
But he was not captain of the Farragut.
Right.
He was first officer of the
Except for
Farragut.
in the alternate timeline. Where,
Right.
Yeah.
With La'an.
Yeah. So, well, no, I'm talking about the alternate timeline from Strange New World season 1, where that he was captain of the Farragut in that, but that's because Pike was still captain of the Enterprise.
You are correct.
Yeah. So had Pike not been in the accident, Kirk would be captain of the Farragut, and then the Farragut would have been subsequently blown up by the Romulans. And that was pretty intense.
It was.
But yeah, I'd like to see some of that stuff fleshed out. I think it'll be cool. Can we see what led up to the accident? Because we never saw it in the prime timeline, the actual accident and how it happened. But the nice thing is that they even said, like when he said, "You haven't heard about what happened to Pike. There's been subspace chatter for months," he says. And so you could assume that's the entire amount of time Kirk's been on the Enterprise.
Interesting.
So I do think it's possible that Kirk took over directly as a result of the accident, and perhaps nobody wanted to talk about it because it was such a sensitive issue. Or much of the crew didn't realize how bad Pike's injuries were.
Right.
They just knew that, he'd been taken to the hospital and they're going to send us a new captain. We're probably seeing Bones, Chekhov, Sulu in the next 3 seasons. Chekhov too young. Keep in mind, Chekhov is a greenhorn when he shows up in season 2 of the original series. Sulu, fine. Bones, I would be fine with if they, if they do it well and respectfully, like they did with Spock. And so far I think they've treated the legacy characters fairly well. The only thing I don't particularly care for is that their Scotty seems based more on the Kelvin timeline Scotty than James Doohan. You muted yourself. You're muted. Can't hear you. Can't hear you at all.
I said the Vulcan dude behind Robin Curtis is in fact supposed to be Spock's son.
Yes. Even though, see, there's a problem with the short as far as the construction of the story because
Thank you.
They don't say it. They don't even. All you know is that there's a Vulcan standing there.
Right.
And some people figured it out, but the thing is that the reason some people figured it out is because they read the book, where Saavik has a son. And the look on Kirk's face as Saavik looks at him is great. It does look like that's Spock's son. That's actually.
No, he definitely conveys it, right?
Yeah, he definitely conveys that, but he only conveys that if you know in the back of your mind that Saavik had a son with Spock. If you don't know, then you just think, why is Kirk acting like that? But yeah, I didn't, so far I think they've been pretty respectful with the legacy characters, except for Scotty. Uh, Again, I think he should be based more on James Doohan Scotty than Simon Pegg's.
Not necessarily. It's well. That's fine.
I don't like Simon Pegg's Scotty. I really don't. I because it doesn't feel anything like James Doohan Scotty.
Well, you got to remember, James Doohan Scotty. I'm gonna tell you the same thing I've told everybody who's had a complaint about any legacy character at
I'm not
all.
saying you shouldn't imitate James Doohan.
It's not that characters change and evolve. He maybe his bright exuberance gets tamped down because he witnesses something bad happen, and he realizes if he becomes chief engineer or really dedicates himself to being the best, he can prevent people from losing their lives or whatever. I feel like you give him a story that evolves him to being that guy. And we're just seeing him at the very beginning. We've been untouched by anything having to do with what will eventually be who he
I
becomes.
I get that, but I'm just saying as a
Why do you suck, man? I'm kidding.
no, I'm not saying you. I acknowledge what you're saying is legitimate, but what I'm saying is that, for me at least, it just didn't feel like Scotty. Just like how Zachary Quinto didn't feel like Spock. They felt like the Kelvin timeline truly feels like an alternate timeline because none of these characters feel the same to me. They feel like they're people cosplaying as those characters, as opposed to the Strange New Worlds, which I also do believe is in an alternate timeline, but it feels like these are the same characters, just
Right.
under different circumstances. So, like
Hear
Anson
that.
Mount, even in some points, channels Jeffrey Hunter, and which is hard to do considering Jeffrey Hunter was only in one episode. But there are times when I think about, like, go back and rewatch not the Menagerie, but go rewatch The Cage, the actual Jeffrey Hunter episode, and you will see shades of Anson Mount in that character. You'll realize, oh wow, so that's where he gets it from.
Right.
And so I think Anson Mount definitely studied Jeffrey Hunter's portrayal to base his character on. Now he takes it further, and the writers do too. Like, I know it's funny because for those of you that don't know, Anson Mount hates to cook.
Which I thought was hilarious.
But I think that the whole cooking thing, while not in the original, is a nice character piece for his. Every character has their little idiosyncrasies, and with Pike, it's like, let's talk over dinner. And I've known people like that. Like, I had a good friend of mine who was pastor of a church in Portland, Oregon, and if you wanted to talk to him, meet with him, do anything serious with him, you had to come to his house and he would prepare a meal. That was the way it was going to go.
We don't like to do business until after we've eaten.
Yeah, and that's fine, there, and I think that's actually, and his theory, and I think Pike's as well, if you think of Pike's inner monologue kind of thing, is that people eating is an intimate thing. And when you sit down and you share a meal with someone,
Absolutely.
you communicate with them on a deeper level than if you're just sitting
I agree with that.
in a
I
meeting.
agree with that.
Yeah. So so I really like the idea that you're breaking, the whole term breaking bread comes from that, is that you're sitting down, you're breaking bread with this person, and you're having a serious conversation. And you have season 1 on HD DVD. Oh, I'm sorry. Good luck getting a new player when that one
Right.
you know?
I feel like his next question is, who wants to? How much? What's my first bid?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. bro.
Carl Urban, I think, is probably the best portrayal from the Kelvin timeline of any of the characters.
I liked him a lot.
Yeah, Carl
Really
Urban,
did.
I absolutely loved. He saved those movies for me. I loved McCoy in those movies. And the only problem, of course, now granted, I know different timelines, so you can, but like when you look at Kirk and McCoy in the original series, you can tell especially in some episodes, they definitely show you they didn't know each other that well before they were on the Enterprise. Like if in Shore Leave, he actually has to explain to McCoy about things that happened to him during the Academy because they never went to the Academy together. And Kirk and Spock didn't go to the Academy together. When Kirk was in the Academy, he was there with Gary Mitchell and he was there with Finnegan.
Yeah.
You know,
Again,
who you
that's
know,
a character I wish they'd revisit
yeah. That's another character that you could bring back.
easily.
And honestly, looking at that freaking short film,
Star Trek Finnegan.
yeah, bring back Gary Mitchell. Oh man, that
Didn't
would.
they do good? I swear. He looks
He
amazing.
didn't say anything or do anything. He was just there, and it gave me chills.
Yeah.
I want more Gary Mitchell. Have Gary Mitchell show up as a villain of the week on Strange New Worlds. What do you do?
The thing is how like I almost want to go back and be like, can you guys go to Star Trek Discovery and use this technology for the Harry Mudd episodes and just
Oh,
replace the guy who played him in those
yeah.
episodes?
The Harry Mudd episodes with real Harry Mudd.
Can you imagine? That would be so amazing.
The only problem is that Harry Mudd from Discovery, and this is to me more further evidence that this is a different timeline. This Harry Mudd is a psycho killer. He is a straight up murderer.
He was younger.
Yes, but you know what? They list in Mudd's Women, they list all the charges ever brought before Harry Mudd, and none of them were murder. He was a smuggler. He was a con artist. He used counterfeit currency, stuff like that, but nothing about murder.
I hear you.
So that was a problem.
Right on, man.
However, I do think that the Mudd using the time reset device Groundhog Day machine was probably the best episode of Discovery.
Agreed.
I did really enjoy that episode. It just should have been Mudd, because Rain is a great actor, but he's not Harcourt Fenton Mudd.
No, but the actor was that actor was such a classic actor too. He was such a classic character actor for the time period.
Yes.
Because he was in a bunch of stuff back in the day.
Arabic says, really enjoyed George Kirk. Yeah, George Kirk is an interesting character for Strange New Worlds
I
because
wish we'd see him more.
yeah, but George Kirk, I mean, all we saw was William Shatner with a mustache as a dead body.
Yeah.
And so I like the fact that we've actually fleshed out that character a little bit, and we see how brotherly he is with James when they meet.
Yeah.
It's not like they hate each other or anything.
No.
They're which is amazing because, oh my gosh, a TV show where the families aren't all completely dysfunctional.
Nice.
What is this craziness? This must
It's
be
an
all.
insane world. Must be fiction.
Yeah. Let's see. What would you do if you could watch all Discovery? Let's see. What would you do if you could watch all of Discovery look like 100% like TOS with AI generated? The stories would still suck.
It has nothing to do with how it looked. In fact,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
the first two seasons were pretty rough.
Yeah. I get why people complain about some of the aesthetics of the show. And there are some aesthetics. Okay. I would definitely cut out the space elevator from Willy Wonka being inside the ship. That was stupid. Every time they showed the turbo lifts, those shots need to be eliminated. The problem is, of course, in season 2, you have an entire battle in the elevator, which I don't know how you fix that. But, and I think season 4 was Discovery's peak. I thought the season 4 was good for Discovery. But yeah, but and in fact, if season 4 was season 1 of Discovery, Discovery could have been a good show.
Well, it's almost like people who say that for Star Trek Beyond was the best of the JJ movies, and if that had been the first JJ movie, and I'm like, I think if that had been the first JJ movie, we wouldn't have gotten more of them.
Yeah,
that was the point. Is they wanted something that didn't feel like Star Trek, and that felt like Star Trek.
I hated Star Trek Beyond. I absolutely hated Star Trek Beyond. You know that, but
I know.
But
because you're against the Beastie Boys.
It has nothing to do with okay. While the Beastie Boys,
the only music that survives to the far-flung future is the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. But I mean, my problem with it is not just that they use the Beastie Boys.
No, I know.
Granted, the Beastie Boys are talentless hacks that for some reason.
Wow. Okay, stop. I'm not trying to start a big fight on our stream.
But it's like they are. There's so much in that movie to hate, but I really don't like the fact that the JJ films, all three of them, in fact, are very anti-military, and TOS is definitely not anti-military.
No,
Say
agreed.
what you want about TOS. And in fact, by the way, very interesting. And if, I don't remember if it's the new Shatner interview. I think it might be the new Shatner interview that the OTOY channel did, but where he talks about Gene Kuhn and how Gene Kuhn was a Marine Corps colonel, and he treated Trek like a military operation, and he looked at Starfleet as being the military. He flat out said Gene Kuhn, not Gene Roddenberry. Gene Kuhn is the person who's mostly responsible for what we get out of Trek.
Right on.
And so Gene Roddenberry created the universe, but Gene Kuhn fleshed it out.
Sure.
And so the reason that the original series feels military is because of Gene Kuhn. And then you have people like Nicholas Meyer that took that to the next level with Star Trek II and Star Trek VI. Where it's like, we're going to go, the funny thing about, I loved, there's a guy named SF Debris, and I think he really nailed it when he said, okay, let me talk about the uniforms from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. They finally have uniforms. So for the first time, they look like military men. Even though we've always known Starfleet was the military, now they actually look like it. And which is part of the reason that Gene Roddenberry hated it. But, which is weird. Is there anything from Discovery worth having for future Star Trek installments? Yes and no. I don't think Discovery. Okay.
Strange New Worlds.
Yeah. We wouldn't have gotten Strange New Worlds if not for Discovery.
And I kind of dug their original take on the uniforms, how it had that dark thing that folded.
I didn't like the asymmetrical look on the collar though. I
right. It was just, but I mean, I got what they were trying to go for, and it didn't. I'm glad they went more classic style with the uniforms.
Yeah.
Less reinvention, more just let's update it in general. Update it's how it's constructed.
Yeah.
So,
But I would say this. So yeah, I actually liked the take on Spock and Michael Burnham's relationship. It was the one thing that I really appreciated about season 2, as rough as parts of season 2 truly were. I love the fact that Spock and Burnham fought like brother and sister, and Spock was the only person who could actually put Michael Burnham in her place.
Yeah, that was cool.
And so that was nice to see. I dug that. Everybody loved Anson Mount as Pike, and that's why we got a show out of it. Because there was no plan to do a Pike-led Star Trek show. But then after Discovery Season 2, the fans started screaming, "We want Anson Mount."
Yeah, dude, I mean, it was amazing. It's so funny because I hated him on Inhumans, and then you get him in this, and it was night and day, and he's been brilliant. Plus, he's such a cool person in general. He does pottery and everything else. Oh my god, my wife and I love him.
I'm so mad at you about that.
That was awesome.
You were supposed to buy me a piece of that pottery, and you didn't. But
it was cute, dude. It was good stuff, man.
But you realize you have first run Anson Mount pottery because that's the first time he's ever sold it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I don't know if you talked to him about it, but I did, and he was like, yeah, he was nervous about actually bringing his work.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so there is some good to come out of Discovery. I also think that season 4 is the best first contact episode in all of Trek.
Yes,
and
100%. And it felt so distinctly like a Star Trek puzzle and a conundrum and a thing.
Yeah,
I was like, right on, man.
People get all obsessed over the fact that some crazy liberal politician was president of Earth as a guest star moment. I don't give a crap about that. I care about the story.
Dude, the story was amazing.
If I didn't like Stephen Hawking, would I hate Star Trek The Next Generation because Stephen Hawking shows up in a
No, I thought it was cooler because of it.
But I'm just saying, like, if
the world had some impact on what the future is. That's how I
but you get what I'm saying. If you don't like Stephen Hawking, does that make TNG a bad show? No, it just Data was just doing a thing in the holodeck. This chick who, yes, failed politician or whatever, I don't care. I didn't know about any of her political crap until after the episode because everybody made such a big stink about it. And
Yeah.
and it's like, if you had just not said anything, I wouldn't even know who she was.
Agreed.
You know. And I would agree with that, Arabic. Season 5 is not bad, but it's definitely season 4 was peak. You can tell season 5 they had to rush a few things because they found out at the last minute that the series was ending.
Yeah, which I didn't. I didn't know if I needed the button they put on it was like, really? We needed to jump you're that much further into the future?
Yeah. The one thing they did give us in season 5, though, is dude from Battlestar Galactica.
Yes,
He was freaking awesome.
I liked him.
They should have brought him in season 3.
He was a cool character.
Yeah.
He was a cool character. He would have been a great response to the to what's his face, because you know who we were missing? We were missing that grumpy. We were missing Worf, a la season 1 and 2 of Next Gen. We were missing.
Well,
that,
Lord Pulaski, Dr. McCoy.
yeah, those people that are
you need that-
purposely bristly,
Yeah.
which make you better. I feel like that was a great. And the fact that Burnham kind of saw that and was like, I did love that she was like, you know what,
He actually had more experience than Burnham.
yeah.
But and so I think that there was a lot. The
only reason Burnham got deference is because remember, they may all have more experience. She brought the ship so many hundreds of years into the future. That kind of trumps most experiences on your resume.
Yeah, but the thing is, if they knew the history behind it, they would be like, wait, why did you go to the future again? Because that AI you were fighting was defeated. So why did you bring Discovery to the future? Because you were trying to prevent Control from getting.
Sorry. I was reading Aravic's response. Make sure you watch The Chase from TNG before you watch season 5. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
That's a good call.
but yeah. So if you if you look at the end of season 2, worst season ending of all of Trek, by the way, because the Enterprise doesn't have 5,000 drones in its shuttle bay.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so you make this huge Star Wars battle for no reason whatsoever, and the whole point was to try and stop this AI called Control from getting a hold of the database that was in the Discovery computer banks,
Yeah.
and couldn't be purged, because if Control got that information, then Control would become super duper uber powerful and take over the universe.
As one does.
Yes. And so at the end of the episode, they come up with the plan of, well, if we send Discovery into the far-flung future, then Control can't get us. Okay, fine. But then they defeat Control. But they still send Discovery into the far-flung future. Why?
So the technology is never there that can cause the issue?
But in the far-flung future, wouldn't technology be more advanced?
Well, yes, but they want their hope. That's how you can solve the problem. Programmable matter.
Now, stupid, but
Why is programmable matter stupid?
Yeah, I know, but
Why?
But no, I'm not. No, I'm saying stupid to think that. No, if your whole concern is that the technology is going to get hold of this specific information and then become uber more powerful, if you have technology that's hundreds and hundreds of years ahead of you, and you have no hope of ever defeating, then how is that a smarter place to be when you still have this uber AI in your computer?
So I feel like season 5, Thomas Potts says season 5 diminishes the importance of the alien from the chase by making it they found the technology, not creating it. That's my brother. That's endemic of today's entertainment.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's too close to saying we found God. And unfortunately, that is an idea that, though you're trying to scientifically ground it with the progenitors and all that as they were, which I loved that they did that, is too metaphysical a concept for today's socio-political bent. Right. And so therefore they're like, nope, sorry. They didn't create it. They discovered it from someone even greater. Maybe that's an adventure we'll go on, blah, 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 whatever, instead of just accepting the fact that progenitors were the beginning, which I had no problem with either.
Right. Well, it's funny because in Shatner's defense, which I never thought I would say this, when it comes to Star Trek V, because I hate Star Trek V. I think it's the worst original series adventure that there is. Period.
Sure.
That being said, and absolutely in Shatner's defense, he wanted to have them actually find God. He didn't want it to be an alien pretending to be God.
No, he wanted to go for it, and
Yeah, he wanted to actually go for the metaphysical truth of God. And the producers were like, whoa, 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 whoa,
what
whoa.
God?
Yeah. And so they stopped him from doing that, and they said, hey, how about doing an alien pretending to be God? And, Shatner compromised on that. And he shouldn't have. He should have, he should have said, no, this is my movie. We're going to find God. But instead he folded, which is really too bad because I think that could have been a much more interesting story. Heck, in the animated series they found Satan, so why not?
Why not find God also?
Yeah, funny enough, they found Satan in the center of the galaxy, which is where they were looking for God.
See, they should have made the animated series canonical, and then Kirk would have known.
Yeah,
shouldn't go to the center.
But that's
neither here nor there.
Yeah. So do you think God is in the center of the galaxy?
Who?
You.
No, I